Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another breakfast chat. And yes, I'm going to be eating something slightly different today. Just fat-free Greek yogurt. We're going to talk about conjugate. Also, I had someone ask in the comments, a couple of people keep asking, Jason, what happened to the cranberry juice? I'm cutting. I don't know what world you guys are in where you think a voracious eater like me who can eat 5,000 calories of clean foods every day if I want easily, why I would be drinking liquid carbs when I'm cutting would not be wise. Would not be wise at all. So that's why. So let's come over and talk about conjugate. Made a video the other day talking about ways to run conjugate if you have very, very limited equipment. Gave some ideas for different max effort lifts. Kind of brings around a point that comes up because one of my clients, actually Antonio, the other day asked me, hey, what is the specific point of this max effort exercise? Right? What's the point of this? And I'm like, because it's a different squat. It's like, well, is there a special reason? I'm like, it is a different squat. That's it. That is the only reason we do it. And I was having you do that when you had less equipment. Notice it's not in your rotation anymore, now that you're at a powerlifting gym. And basically it was dead pen squats, which is something I have my lifters do who only have a power bar, who aren't set up with chains, aren't set up with bands. We test different heights on boxes, test different heights on pen squats. Why? Because they're a different lift. And I'm going to quote Dave Tate. I'm going to paraphrase Dave Tate because he had said, a lot of people think that, we have all these special reasons as coaches why we give you different lifts on conjugate. He goes, they can be random. We can give you completely random squat, pull, and press variations that we just make up. We're not picking them for special reasons most of the time. Sometimes we are. Sometimes I do want to see the way someone moves through a specific part of the strength curve. But on conjugate, what we are trying to do is a couple of things with the maxes. Number one, we are teaching you to max out. We're teaching you to max out against different lifts. Why? So that you develop the intramuscular and intermuscular coordination to produce maximum force against an external load. That is the skill. When I say maxing out is a skill, I don't mean that maxing out is a skill on one specific lift. Maxing out is a skill. Notice I didn't say on the back squat. Maxing out's a skill. And there are muscular components to it. There are adaptations that are made as a result of it. It's teaching you to produce maximum force. We're doing a lot of different lifts so that we get strong at a wide variety of angles. Now this works for powerlifting, but it actually turned out this is one reason conjugate is so effective and so popular in contact sports, is because this aspect of it is even better for contact sports than it is for powerlifters. You hit someone on a playing field or a fighting ring, you don't always get to pick the exact perfect angle. You don't get the perfect setup and technique to do it with something you practice always repeatedly at those exact same angles. You've got a moving, dynamic person you are moving against. Being good at 30 different angles and being able to produce maximum force, because that's what you have to do. A 1 rep max is producing maximum force, the same thing you do when you push, pull, kick, or punch against another human being as hard as you possibly can. It's the same idea. We're at 100% of your force production. The same thing in powerlifting. If we're good at all these different angles, we can fix any part of the strength curve. But number two, if we're good at 7 different press variations, 8 different squat variations, all these different grooves, if we have a weight that tries to pull us out of our groove, we're used to those awkward angles already anyways. We're used to new angles. We're able to just push through and lock it out. It makes you better at maxing when things get a little bit squirrely. Makes you less injury prone. Number two, because we are maxing out every week, we're trying to avoid overuse injuries by changing the angles. And that angle could be changing a range of motion, right? We can go to a taller box. go to a taller dead pin on a dead pin squat. We can add bands, we can add chains, we could change the amount of band or chain weight. We could change barbells. By changing the movement, we change the points where the most load is placed on certain tendons. Okay? If we're trying to avoid overuse because we are hitting a couple of maxes, 2 or 3 max effort lifts every single week year round, this is how we avoid overuse injuries from it, because we're not hitting that exact same angle with a full maximum load every time. Our chances of overuse go down. And actually, it makes us more resilient to injuries. Something that was brought up in the Dr. Israetel and Dr. Feigenbaum injury debate. Feigenbaum brought that up. People who are stronger at a wider variety of movement patterns, use more variation, have a lower risk of injury. They're more resistant to it. Okay, it makes you more injury resistant. Number 3, we need to give you enough lifts that you PR every time you hit a new lift. Why will I throw this lift in? I don't know, because the other 8 squats that you do, you're not ready to hit a PR yet. That's why we throw it in. That's what's special about it. It is a different squat, pull, or press than what you have done recently. That is what's magic about it, that it is different. Not that that specific lift is always better. It's just different. All right, what's one of our goals on Conjugate is to PR, unless there's injuries or you're dieting or whatever. Our goal is to PR every time we max out. That's the goal. Doesn't mean we're going to do it, but that's the goal. The more different lifts we have, the more time you have to get stronger between maxing. Okay. It's important for psychological reasons. This is Louis Simmons talks about this extensively, and people could argue about his physiology all they want. As far as coaching champions go, he is absurdly successful at it. That's part of the mindset of a champion, is that if you PR every single week, year round, because we rotate lifts, people say, well, it doesn't count because it's different lifts and blah, blah, blah. No, it does count, because in your brain, you're programming yourself to PR every single week. Every week. You know that you get stronger every week because you track these lifts. Let's say it takes you 12 weeks before you can PR on a given lift again, even 5 pounds, all right? But we PR'd on 12 different lifts in that same slot. We PR'd on 12 lifts. And then when we get to those same lifts in the next 12 weeks, we PR on them again. You're continually hitting PRs. It programs your brain to think, every time I go to the gym, I get stronger. Every max effort day, I am stronger than I was the week before, or even the last time I tried that lift, even if it was 12 weeks ago, 20 weeks ago. I had a PR, I got stronger on it. And if every time, because we do enough lifts, that you PR on them continually, it programs you to think in your head, I am stronger every time I get under a max lift. It builds confidence, and that carries over to other sports. Definitely carries over to powerlifting, because then it comes meet time. You get to meet time, what are you going to do? If you PR every single week year round in training, what have you programmed your brain to do? You programmed your brain to PR in competition, because you do it in training all the time. Why wouldn't you do it at meet? There's nothing to be nervous about. You walk in and you PR. Okay, once you're in that groove of doing it, it's psychological. It's programming you to think like a champion and to think like a winner and to think in your head, I am someone who PRs every time I lift heavy. Every time. And it doesn't matter. People say, yeah, but it's on all these different lifts. But isn't that irrelevant to the psychology? You're trying to undo the psychological advantage with that train of thought. If you run with it, you just get stronger all the time. Okay? And it works. It works from a psychological programming perspective. So we have physiological reasons why we do it, to get better at every angle possible and to see where our weakest points are in any strength curve. Useful for picking accessory movements. Number 2, reduces injuries. Number 3, programs your brain to PR. That's why The lifts themselves that we use aren't that important. I'm not saying they're completely irrelevant and they should be completely random, but I'm saying that for a big chunk of them, probably at least half or more of your maxes, yes, they can be completely random and you will get all of the desired elements of what we do. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.